Now greet people because you're recording.
Okay, we're recording this, so this is the Torah study for Tuesday night for Matsu Valley Messianic Congregation, and we are in Leviticus chapter 12. Okay, and I'm sure I'll pronounce it wrong, but it's Tazria, I believe. And we're also doing Mitzorah. So, chapter 12, it's about purification. Okay? And then it's about, in English, it always says leprosy. But it's much more than just leprosy. It's not what we think. So, it has to do with many skin diseases. Okay? So, I don't know if you got a chance to read it or not, Ken.
Yeah, I've read it.
Okay. Check my bag. So here's the deal. The overall thing, I believe. We think of this stuff as bad things. You know, people had to be separated from camp. You know, it was a terrible thing. But from what I see of it, it was to the benefit of the people themselves. You know, to be separated. Because if you had something wrong with the skin, you didn't want it to get infected or spread to your, whatever. You didn't want your skin to get infected and stuff.
It makes you wonder what the hygiene was like back in them days in that culture.
Well, I'm sure living in the desert, and
Well, God taught them hygiene.
Yeah.
Washing hands and.
Yeah. So, but also I'm sure living in the desert, water was, unless they were near springs and what do you call them, wadis? I don't know.
Yeah, wadis.
But 3 million people, that's a lot of people for water.
Plus all the animals they had with them.
Correct. So, but the first one is purification. And I don't know what your thoughts are, but it seems to be shorter for the male and longer for the female.
For the baby.
For the baby. Why that is, we don't know.
It's half the time for a male.
Right, it's half the time. Why that is, we don't know. We can make assumptions, but that's just the way God called it. It's not because one's better than the other or one's need more purification than the other. It's just God knows. So.
Well, we talked about it last year that it's bonding time between the mom and the baby.
Yeah.
So you just focus on the baby because she's not allowed to go anywhere.
Right.
So maybe with her and the daughter can have even more bonding time.
Well, I think, yeah, they give the mother more time to rest and to recover. Nowadays, you go to the hospital, have the baby, the next day they want you out of there. Because the insurance companies, obviously.
Yeah.
So, but back then, I think the Lord wanted women to rest more than what they do, That's my opinion about it. So, and then you get into this leprosy stuff. So, what I found interesting is the plague of leprosy, like in verse 13:10, okay? 13:10. When the plague of leprosy is in a man, then he will be brought to the priest, and the priest will see him, and behold, if the rising is white in the skin and has turned the hair white, and there is quick raw flesh in the rising, it is an old leprosy in the skin of his flesh, and the priest will pronounce him unclean. We think of white as pure, don't we? We think of white as opposite. But here, it's being judged as unclean. It's being judged as unclean. So that's kind of a different, something I thought about. But there is, and you had to do everything with clothes. There was a certain what they had to do with the clothes. You know, if he was even, okay, if the priest pronounced him clean, his clothes still had to be taken care of. So he still had to take care of the clothes.
Well, germs are on clothes.
Right, germs are on
God
clothes.
knows. You have to
So
cleanse everything.
again, this wasn't,
sterilize everything.
again, this just wasn't a what we would call leprosy. It's involved a lot of different skin diseases, rashes. I don't know what other different skin diseases would there be.
Well, there's infections.
Infections, rashes, you know, you name it. Boils. I guess you got some boils on your skin. I mean, that's an infection there. Boils is a staph.
And of course, there's cancers.
And there's cancers and stuff like that.
It's very good infection control. These laws are very good infection control.
Right.
If medical field would have listened to these all over through the centuries, things would have been pretty
Right.
good.
Do humans get mange like dogs?
Yes, they can.
Yeah.
You can. Lice.
Lice? Yeah.
Yeah. Mange. What's the other thing? Yeah, what did my brother get from a motel room once? Was it mange?
It was
scabies.
scabies, yeah.
Babies. Yeah.
Scabies. That's another one form of. So it just didn't mean how they interpret leprosy. There's no word for it in the Hebrew. So leprosy kind of does just justice here to the Hebrew. The word there in the Hebrew means like a lot of different skin diseases. So
Well, they refer to it as either clean or unclean. So now we're back to hygiene, I guess.
right. So either that it was healed or it wasn't healed.
Yeah.
And there is a spiritual connection. I say there's a spiritual connection because they went to the priest. The priests were the judge of everything. So there kind of is a spiritual connection to things. And how deep it goes, how much it goes. Some people will claim that it don't matter what you have, it's connected spiritually. Is that totally true or not? I don't know.
Well, I don't think they had doctors in them days. So who were they going to go to?
Yeah, I guess.
This was like very advanced for the day, I would say. Probably very advanced for the day. It's because they didn't know about germs and stuff back then.
Yeah, exactly.
Well,
so they had to go with somebody who had some authority.
Well, think about it. Those mandrakes. This is after the mandrakes. How many hundreds of years after the mandrakes? These weren't stupid people, though. They still had herbs, and they still had things they worked with.
Yeah, but I mean, as far as infection control, that there's germs, and germs can spread from person to person.
Right.
And house.
Well, I agree. God knew, so God implemented a plan, and God implemented this.
Yeah.
So He implemented a plan for these people to with these infectious diseases.
People didn't learn about germs and antigens until didn't learn about germs until the 19th or the 20th century.
I know. They didn't start pasteurizing milk until the end of the 1800s.
Amen. Yeah. So they didn't know.
So
So advanced.
yeah. So here's
But it's God, and God knew. God has known all through the centuries.
right.
So he designed it.
So I want to read something here. If you go to Leviticus 14, okay, Leviticus 14, verse 1. And Adonai spoke to Moshe, saying, this shall be in the Torah of the leopard for the day of his cleansing. He shall be brought to the priest. And the priest shall go out of the camp, and the priest shall look and see if the leprosy is healed in the leper. So I guess he's going outside the camp. The leper couldn't even go into the tabernacle, right? Apparently he couldn't even go to the tabernacle.
So it's quarantine.
Yeah, it's
See
quarantine.
how advanced it is. It's quarantine.
Yeah.
It's isolated. It's amazing.
He's isolated.
Same thing.
What?
The cat is stuck in. Same thing.
You cut out a little bit, so we couldn't hear you.
It's just like where you're quarantined right now, stuck in the cabin.
Yeah, exactly.
Get them from the crowd.
I don't have skin diseases though. I might have some leftover skin burn from the from the stove.
Oh, dude.
But we're talking about an infectious virus. So,
yeah.
You know.
And again, I don't think what would they have done with a burnt on their skin? Because surely they had fire. And I'm surely they burnt themselves with something hot.
And they probably had wonderful herbs.
But they that wouldn't have been considered a skin disease.
No.
I bet they had aloe vera juice.
Yeah.
It talks about certain skin things that if they don't spread, then they're okay. So.
Yeah.
Oh, so let's get back to the verse here.
Okay.
Then the priest, verse 4, then the priest shall command, and he shall take for him who is to be cleansed. Okay, so this guy is clean, right? The priest looks at him, he's clean. 2 live and clean birds. Okay. Cedar wood and scarlet and hyssop. Okay. And the priest shall command, he shall slay one of the birds in the earthy vessel over running water. Let him take the live bird in cedar wood and the scarlet and the hyssop and dip them in the live bird in the blood of the bird that was slain over the running water. Okay, so they had to take this blood and they put it on, a dab of it on the cedar wood, a dab of it on the scarlet, mixed with the scarlet and hyssop, and put it on the bird. Okay. And he shall sprinkle it 7 times on him who is to be cleansed from the leprosy, and shall pronounce him clean, and shall let the live bird loose in the open field. Okay? So you got one bird that's slain and one bird that's set free. What does this remind you of?
Yeah. Scapegoat.
The scapegoat.
Yom Kippur.
Yom Kippur. You got one goat that's slain for the sins and one goat that is set free. Okay? And here, if you read back in another Exodus, I think it is, where they take the blood and put it on the ear, they put it on the thumb, and they put it on the big toe.
And always, priest, when they're ordaining the priest.
Right. And I always wondered why that. It's because this controls your hearing and what goes in, your thoughts and everything. Okay? Your thumb is what you do, okay? Your work and what you put your hand to, and your foot, your toe, your limb, your big is how you walk that out, how you're doing it. And so that's some more meaning behind all this, why they did that, why the Lord wanted that. So, okay, verse 7, he shall sprinkle it 7 times on him who is to be cleansed from the leprosy, and shall pronounce him clean, and shall let the live bird loose in the open field. And he who is to be cleansed shall wash his garments, and shall shave off his hair, and wash himself in water, and shall be clean. Okay? So he has to shave his head, or all his hair off his body. Okay? Then he washed himself in the water, and shall be clean. Then after that he comes into the camp, but shall stay outside his tent 7 days. So he can come in the camp, but he can't go in his tent. And on the 7th day it shall be that he shaves all the hair off his head, and his beard, and his eyebrows, even all his hair he shaves off. So why is it that he's been pronounced clean? He shaved all his hair. He's been pronounced clean. He's took his
Garments.
his wash.
His clothes. He's taking his bath.
Okay, but now after 7 days, he has to do it all over again. He has to shave his head again. I find that interesting. Okay.
Because.
And on the 8th day, he takes 2 male lambs, perfect ones, and 1 ewe lamb, an old, a perfect one, and 3/10 of an ephah of fine flour mixed with oil, and as a grain offering, in 1 log of oil. And the priest who is cleansing shall present the man who is to be cleansed with these offerings before Adonai at the door of the tent of appointment. And the priest shall take 1 male lamb and bring it as a guilt offering in a log of oil, and weigh them as a wave offering before Adonai. And he shall slay the lamb in the place where he slays the sin offerings and the ascending offerings in the holy place. For the guilt offerings, like the sin offering, belongs to the priest. It is most holy. Verse 14 of 14. And the priest shall take some of the blood of the guilt offerings, and the priest shall put it on the tip of the right ear of him who is to be cleansed, and on the thumb of the right hand, and on the big toe of his right foot. So it's the same thing as the priest.
Yeah, quite amazing.
So this is what they're doing to the guy.
But the waiting for 7 days and the shaving hair, it all makes sense medically and scientifically.
Okay.
It makes much sense.
Okay. Cheryl says medically it makes a lot of sense. And the priest shall take some of the verse 15. And the priest shall take some of the log of oil and pour it into the palm of his own left hand. And the priest shall dip his right finger in the oil that is in his left hand, and shall sprinkle some of the oil with his finger 7 times before Adonai. And the rest of the oil in his hand, the priest puts some on the tip of the right ear of him who is to be cleansed, and on the thumb of his right hand, and on the big toe of his right foot, on the blood of the guilt offering. And the rest of the oil that is in the priest's hand, he puts on the head of him who is to be cleansed, and the priest shall make atonement for him before Adonai. Verse 19. And the priest shall make the sin offering and make atonement for him who is to be cleansed from his uncleanliness. Then afterward he slays the ascending offerings. And the priest shall offer the ascending offerings and the grain offerings on the slaughter place, and the priest shall make an atonement for him, and he shall be clean. Okay? So he's making atonement for his sins. So there's some spiritual connection to this. Okay? Now, in Hebrew, they relate this leprosy, which is not the correct word, but they relate this to gossip and slander. All right? I'll read a little bit about it here in the scriptures.
I got a question for Cheryl.
I'm going to read a little bit about gossip and slander.
Show them the
Okay.
cover so they know what.
Okay, I got the One New Man Bible.
Okay, let me ask Cheryl a question.
Yeah, ask Cheryl a question.
Being a Hebrew expert,
One New Man Bible.
Well, I wouldn't call myself an expert, but
but
okay.
the Hebrew word is sarat. What's that
Yeah.
mean?
Sarah.
Sarat.
Well, they're saying it's related to gossip, but it also is kind of related to trouble, or sounds similar to trouble. I didn't look up the Hebrew today, and now I can hardly look it up. I could try.
No, you're gonna ruin something.
I might mess up the Zoom.
Yeah.
So,
But Taurus is trouble, so it's kind of the same root word letters, sounds like.
so like gossip and slander. God hates that, okay? So I'll read from this dictionary here of the One New Man Bible. We will be judged by every idle word as Yeshua spoke in Matthew 12:36. And I say to you that every idle word which men will speak will be paid back with regard to his account on judgment day. For you will be justified because of your words, and you will be condemned because of your words. That's in Psalms 51:4 and Proverbs 6:2. In Job 3:6, the tongue is also a fire, and the world of unrighteousness, the tongue is sitting for itself among the parts of our body, defiling the whole body and destroying the wheel of life and being set on fire by Gehenna. For every species of beasts and also birds and reptiles and even of sea creatures, has been tamed by humans. But no one is able to tame the tongue of men, unstable, evil, full of deadly poison. With this we bless the Lord and Father, and with this we curse men. Paul wrote similar admonitions in Romans 1:29-30, 2 Corinthians 12:20, and Colossians 3:8, and in 2 Timothy 3:1-5. The Jewish teachers have known since the earliest times that the tongue was a great problem for most people. They say slander is the equivalent of murder. That what is called character assassination is exactly that, assassination, murder. Someone who listens to gossip or slander is an accomplice to the crime, actually encouraging the speaker. Therefore, the one who listens is equal guilty of the sin. The proper response when someone begins to gossip or say inappropriate things is to excuse yourself, saying that you do not want to hear that. Try to inform the speaker that such talk is improper. Do not repeat what little you've heard, and do not tell that you left because of gossip or slander. So, the crimson thread and hyssop brought with the birds are also significant. The red dye for the thread is made from an insect and represents the penitence of newfound humility. Hyssop is a low bush, also symbolizing humility. Okay. Just where we read, Leviticus 14 on cleansing the leper relates to gossip and slander. The offering of two birds represents the twittering and chirping of the gossip and slander. Notice he offered two birds. One of the birds is killed, not offered on the altar, but is buried. A gossip and slander should be buried. The second bird is set free, representing the repentant sinner, forgiven by God, given another chance, then released to go and sin no more. So the root causes of this sin are jealousy and pride, because it breeds the contempt for others that lets them talk about others carelessly. The hair of the head, beard, and eyebrow were shaved because these are symbols of pride. The beard also frames the mouth that spoke the gossip and slander. The eyebrows represent the base trait of jealousy, as someone looking with envy. So That's why God wanted to shave the beard and the eyebrows. Okay. They claim Joseph had somewhat of a problem with this. They claim this. Joseph had a problem with this based on Genesis 37:2, which says these are the descendants of Jacob. Joseph, 17 years old, was tending a flock with his brothers, and he was a lad with the sons of Bilhah and with the sons of Zilpah, his father's wife. Joseph brought to his father very evil reports about them. So Joseph would slander his brothers, in other words. So it makes you wonder if that is true, okay, about slander and gossip, and if Joseph did slander his brothers, if he hadn't done that, would he have gone down into Egypt another way instead of being a slave? Makes you wonder.
Yeah, good question. Yeah.
You know, if he wanted to slander his brothers, how many years he spent in jail and prison and the hardship he had. So it does make you wonder if there's somewhat of a spiritual connection. So the Jewish people say yes, it is spiritual. And anyways, we shouldn't slander people anyways. That's a given. That's you know, we shouldn't be attacking someone else's character. And I know we all do it. We get on the internet and we see what these people are doing. The Pelosi's, the Clintons, and all these people, and we start ripping into them. But anyways, it's up to God. So, gossip and slander. So that's something we probably all need to really think about. And of course, there's a whole thing about cleaning the house, about getting the diseases out of the house in 14. Leprosy in the house. Different diseases. Mold. So God, my whole thing, God knew mold was bad for you way back then.
Yeah.
God knew that houses need to be cleaned and spring cleaning. So
bed bugs and all, right?
Correct. What's that?
Bed bugs and all.
Yeah, bed bugs and all.
Yeah, and if the house doesn't get cleaned, you have to burn it. Well, that's the way you kill all germs,
Right.
Burn them. We know that today.
Well, it's like that log cabin near that place down by Craig's, where you come to that stop sign before his house, and you drive through. If you go on to the right and you drive back up in there and go up there at the end of the cul-de-sac, there's a great big huge log cabin up in there. Great big huge thing. Nobody lives there, and Craig said it's because there's mold everywhere.
Oh wow.
So basically, you'd have to burn it down. I don't see how you get mold.
Yeah, you have to torch it.
So, and the brand new tin roof on there. The tin is still, tin is like brand new.
Yeah, cleansed by fire.
Yep, cleansed by fire. So the house, yeah. So then they had the whole issue of, a man's running issue and a woman's issues and men issues. So I think God wanted everybody to be neat and clean. And again, we know, what's the old phrase? cleanliness is next to godliness.
Amen.
You know? So, and again, in this, if you read,
It's not a Bible verse, but
I know it's not a Bible
seems
verse,
to be
but
a principle, right?
Yeah,
yeah, it seems to be a principle.
It's
And
That's a very much
good
a Mennonite
slogan.
thing. Cleanliness is next to godliness. It's such a Mennonite thing.
It's a good slogan.
yeah, it's a good slogan. And I know he makes a way for poor people too, the two birds. I mean, basically, it's the cheapest sacrifice you could make. Two birds, you know?
So I just looked it up on my phone. The thing for leper is tzara, like he said.
Yeah.
And trouble is tzara, but the last letter. So they're both of them, each of them are 3 letters, but the last letter is different. So they might not be that closely related, but they sure make you think of them. But it sure does bring trouble, does it not?
Yeah, it sure does.
But they're not saying that the word for gossip. Oh, that's what I should look. I don't know. Gossip wouldn't be in the Bible. It's slander.
Well, gossip.
They're not saying that the Hebrew words are related. They're somehow there's.
What's this word? Look that word up. That's
related to leprosy.
Right. But I think it's probably slander.
Oh.
So, see if I can. Yeah. But you know, the whole thing with the men's issue and women's issue, it has to be with contact with the outside world, because you can get contaminated, you know, with doing daily tasks. So, and you know, it's not good to touch dead animals. It's not good to, you know, there are many diseases out there. So yeah, anything that stands out with you? Anything that you had questions on?
Well, really, it just seems like wash, wash, wash.
Yeah, basically, basically. So basically, God knew.
He did, and I get the feeling that he was trying to tell the people, but how do you explain it when they are basically uneducated?
Yeah,
They weren't
I know.
I mean, you know, Einstein didn't come along until the 20th century.
Yeah.
So, I mean, and these fantastic doctors that come up with these salt vaccines and serums and stuff like that. I mean, this is all new. I mean, the more mankind progresses, the more intelligent they get, and the more they figure out, you know, with the help of God. I mean, you know, his spirit is in their mind, and they're the ones that, you know, come up with the documentation. But
Sure.
It makes you wonder where we're going to be next.
Well,
in a glass bubble.
Yeah. Well, the thing is, what goes along with this is his other commandments.
Oh yeah.
Well, you know, he says, you know, he'll bring none of these diseases on you if you obey his other commandments, his commandments. You know, you follow the 10 commandments the way you're supposed to. None of these diseases are going to come upon you.
Well, he's kind of making it look like a penalty.
Yeah, it kind of looks that way, but the thing is, when you follow the 10 Commandments, you actually live a pretty clean life.
Yeah.
You know?
Spiritually, morally, physically, everything.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, some of this idolatry worship is sickening. You know, you what they used to do, you know, with animals and all this other stuff, idolatry worship. I mean, hello, okay, for instance, there's people that are claiming because of the Chinese, you know, in their meat markets over there, I don't know what they call it, but they claim this virus came from a bat. People eating a bat. You know? Well, if you eat kosher, you're not going to get diseases.
Yeah.
You know? If it did, they say the MERS came from somebody eating a camel. You know, and camel are whether that did, we don't know. Whether this came from the bat, we don't know. You know, and could have it. I guess it could have. You know, you eat things that are unkosher that you shouldn't eat, you're going to get sick. I mean, a bat, you know, that's just really disgusting. But you follow the commandments and none of these diseases will come upon you. It's simple. But anyways. So no, it's pretty cut here, cut and dry, I think. So
That sounds like that old saying, you know, they get away with as much as they can for as long as they can.
yeah.
You know, who are they kidding? They're just
I know. Well,
risking their lives.
give them an inch and they'll take a mile.
There you go.
You know, it's it's like, okay, a whole bunch of people had this. Well, they're members of the LGB whatever whatever I don't know, community in Florida, right? They when they first put the quarantine on, these people went and met anyways. They had a great big huge seminar gathering or party or something in the community down there, and all these LGBT whatever all went, and most of them got the virus, got sick. Well, and then they want to blame Trump. They want to sue Trump. You know, so here you got these people that live ungodly. They disobey, and they end up with disease.
And blame somebody else.
And blame somebody else. And so, you know, and then that same group in New York City, Franklin Graham, what's he over? What's the Franklin Graham? Samaritan's Purse. So he sets up a great big huge, you know, as people set up a big hospital tent. You know, it's not just a hospital, it's to help people. Right across from Mount Sinai Hospital in the big park there.
Yeah, it was for extra hospital beds.
Yeah, for extra hospital beds. So Samaritan Purse, Franklin Graham come in there and he's really trying to help the hospital out. And who shows up protesting and demand that they be kicked out? The LGBT community. You know, here they're trying to help people.
They were worried that he wasn't going to treat LGBT patients.
Oh.
They were worried the patients weren't going to be treated well if they were gay, if they were not heterosexual.
No, they just wanted him out of it.
That is so not true. Oh my word!
They just wanted him out of there. That's all. But anyways, but see, you know, that's, you know, just live for the Lord, obey his commandments, and none of these diseases will come upon you. So it's kind of simple. But even when they do, he has a remedy for you. That's the thing.
Yeah.
Even when you do, he has a remedy for you. Well, the first one, obviously, you repent. So he has a remedy, even though. But yeah, that's pretty much. Infectious diseases.
It even calls it plague. In the King James, it says the plague of leprosy.
The plague. But you can read in the New Testament where Yeshua heals the leopards. And remember, you know, when they anointed the tabernacle, when Aaron and them anointed the different like the showbread, when he anointed the altar, when he anointed the basin, it says whoever touched them would be holy, would be clean.
That's quite something, isn't it?
Yeshua comes along, and in the New Testament, you got the leopards that ask for healing, and when Yeshua touches them, they become clean. And so there's a real significance between the holy and the sanctified instruments in the tabernacle and Yeshua. So that's something that can be studied out. It shows you the proof that Yeshua is in everything. So, but and you can see, is it spiritual? Well, just like last week when I read, I don't know if you heard this because the internet was so bad. When I read about Uzziah the king and how he went into the temple and how Uzziah tried to do a priestly thing, and Uzziah was a king, but he tried to do something that only the priest should do. And he got leprosy right away. I don't know if you heard that on in my message. Yeah. So, see, is there a connection between leprosy and obeying God? I believe there is. Somewhat. I believe there is. Obviously, it's in Scripture. It wouldn't be. And how how he did, whose hand was it? Was it Moses'? Moses' hand, you know?
Oh, yeah, I turned it to leper. Yeah.
And then how Miriam talked bad about Moses. Remember Miriam and Aaron talked bad about Moses?
That's why they relate it.
And that's how they relate it, because she was slandering Moses and she got leprosy.
I bet that's how it is.
That's one of the reasons why they relate it to slander and gossip. So I say the Jewish people. So is there some truth in that? I believe there is.
Sometimes you just got to put two and two together.
Yeah, you put two and two together. So, we have to be careful who we slander, And I get caught up in the thing too with these liberals and all the news media. And you know what? I think if we concentrate more on the Word of God and less on those people, because all it does is get us worked up. It gets our blood up, and it starts getting us worked up and feeling miserable and getting angry and wanting to throw something at them, and what are you going to do about it? Well, the best thing we can do about it is just let them be who they are and let the Lord deal with them. And we just concentrate on his commandments and doing his will. And you know what? I'm convinced these people, like CNN and MSNBC, like the one guy had to cry. It was okay to go home and cry over the coronavirus. They are so scared. You think about it. Their trust is in some government or some way of life that they think everybody should be living. And when those people, like Governor Cuomo, he couldn't fix this. You know, they put their trust in those people, and when they can't fix it, they got to go home in bed and cry, or they got to have a breakdown. You know, so they're just a bunch of scared people. And of course, I mean, if I didn't have my trust in the Lord, I think I'd be scared too. Mm-hmm. But, you know, hey, we're all going to die someday. You're not going to get around it. It's pointed to every man dies.
It's amazing with this pandemic. He's got everybody cooped up in their houses and slowed down, cooled down.
Yeah.
Oh, you know?
Yeah.
Peaceful. Green.
Yeah. How he slowed everybody down. And here's the thing. Like I said, the rabbis are saying this Passover was a unique Passover where two things, okay? One, the moon was the same as back then. How they figured that, I don't know. Two is that it was the first time since that Passover, the very first Passover in Egypt, that all the Jews had to be in their own houses.
Wow.
You know, so that's unique. So I've kind of thought about this today, that maybe this Shavuot will be unique too. That in Pentecost, in 50 days, now we got 40, right? Because today's day 10.
Yeah.
The counting of the Omer is day 10. So there's 40 more days before Shavuot. That Shavuot is going to be something important, in my opinion. It's because the Passover was important. Will this be like Shavuot of Yeshua's time, or will this be like something different? So,
well, let me tell you something.
What's that?
Jonathan Kahn, you know, he's quite a prophet. He writes those books, and he says that 2020 is a year of major events, biblical events. So, like you're saying, another 40 days, we'll see what happens.
Shavuot, first fruit. So we'll see. I think it could be a year. See, I think we're at a crossroads, or we come to a T in the road. And I'm talking about the believers, okay? Because the world's a world. You know, they're always going to go against God. But I think we've come to a crossroad, okay? The Lord has done this all over the world. It's not just America. You know, yeah, the Chinese, they haven't been able to, you know, they don't really have churches. They got home churches. They have to meet in their homes. But especially to the West, the Lord has brought the Western church or the believers to a point. Okay, we're at a T. Are we going to take, one is the low road and one's the high road. I think he's made us stop and think, are we going to respond correctly? Or are we going to act like the world? And so I think that's what he's done here in 2020. How are we going to go through these end times and tribulations? Are we going to go through it with him, which is the easier way? Or are we going to go through it like the world, and we're going to live in fear, and we're going to react to everything like the world reacts? or are we going to have faith, and are we still going to see? I wonder when the churches are allowed to get back together, if people aren't going to, if the church is going to lose a lot of members, because people could get used to this. They could continue having services but live stream them, and your people would rather sit home and record it and do what they want to do and listen to it later, instead of get together with fellowship. It's much easier just to, or are people going to be really glad to get back together? Are they going to miss the fellowship? Are they going to want to get back together? And are they going to be more gung-ho for the Lord? You see what I'm saying? Are we going to be gung-ho, or are we going to be, hey, we can do things more relaxed, and we can do things the way we want to. Keep the internet sermons going. You know what I mean? So I think that's a kind of a crossroads where we're at.
A lot of churches already did have.
Well, I know a lot of churches did have, but.
And people do miss each other.
Right, but
we'll see. What you're saying, thank God for Zoom.
Yeah.
I know, thank God.
It's handy.
Very nice.
So.
They're going to take it down. That's the only problem. They're so anti-religious, anti-Christian. It's unbelievable.
Yeah.
They're screaming and kicking right now, and they're going to make life miserable.
Yes, exactly. Well, this whole internet thing, Amazon and all that, they're really anti God. They're anti-Christian, anti-Yeshua through and through. So all this media, but we'll see. Yeah, well, that's kind of it about these diseases. Hey, bottom line, live for the Lord, do what is right, and none of these plagues will come upon you. Yeah. So, yeah. Yeah, well, I haven't got anybody else.
I know. Well, there's two people here, but maybe, Ken, do you have your YouTube on? Are you watching YouTube also?
It's on, but it's in the background.
Oh, okay, so yeah, we just have two. It's us and you.
Yeah.
So it's kind of sad.
Well, I'll have to get on the phone and see how everybody's doing.
Yep, we need to do that. We had so much calling we had to do today about my dad, so didn't really have time, but.
So, yeah. Yeah, and it's probably not really an interesting topic for people, because they don't, this whole process of leprosy, and
yeah,
it's not an interesting topic for people.
It's sort of like reading a medical book.
Yeah, reading a medical book.
A medical manual or something.
So, but, yeah.
But it's for real.
Yeah, it is.
Right.
Very much for real, very much applicable. That's the amazing thing.
So, yeah.
Wow.
Have you heard from your son overseas?
I haven't heard from him personally, but through the grapevine, he's cooped up in his house. He's working. He works from home.
Okay.
And, I don't know how they're doing it, because the apartments over there are really tiny.
Oh, imagine. Imagine.
Where is he again?
He's in like the Netherlands or something?
He's in Norway.
Norway. So
for